County communities of Lomamar and Dearborn Park, Pescadero Creek County Park, and Butano community area, Butano State Park, and area including the Knolls community and Butano Creek drainage. South Skyline Boulevard area near Highway 9, Russian Ridge Open Space Preserve area, Middleton Track Area Zone, Portola, Redwoods State Park, and Portola Heights community area. Now let's turn our attention over to Raina Harvey. She's covering the CZU August lightning complex fires. It's called the CZU because it is in Santa Clara and Santa Cruz County. So kind of set the scene for us, Raina. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Tell us about what you are at.
So I'm currently in Scotts Valley. It's a town not too far away from where all these fires are burning. Right behind me, this is where you have multiple law enforcement agencies that are meeting here, planning what they're going to be doing for the day. You also have several agencies shutting down the streets here, talking to residents. I've been told by some of the residents in the area that they let them know while they're not being evacuated just yet, they could be evacuated and asked to leave this area at any moment's notice. So that's what people are trying to get together right now. We're going to show you some aerial shots. This was shared with us by CAL FIRE, and you can see this is what they've been doing, trying to put out the fire here. Right now, currently zero containment on these massive fires that are burning. About 22,000 people have been evacuated in the Santa Cruz and San Mateo area. The CZU August Lightning Complex fire has burned more than 10,000 acres. Now, they gave that update to us around 6, and so as it continues to burn, it is probably much higher than that as of right now. We know that structures have been burned. They were not able to pinpoint exactly where those structures have burned within this fire, but we know that has happened. We also know that an additional firefighter has been injured. We know that there were 2 that were injured as of yesterday, but now another firefighter has been injured in this, bringing the injury total up to 3. They have many difficulties that they are facing in these particular fires. One is the location. You have the rough, rugged terrain here, and they're trying to get that put out. It's very steep. You have lack of resources here. Firefighters are spread very thin statewide, and so you have many of the firefighters here having to work double shifts just to get these fires put out. You know, on top of that, you have a lack of access to water and that moisture here in the air. You have a lot of bark. They're saying the lightning strike is what caused this fire, and has really lack of access to spread with the wind yesterday. And so, you know, they're definitely telling people this fire is very dangerous. They're asking people in the area here in Santa Cruz County to stay out of the area if you can. People are trying to evacuate, and while they're evacuating, they're basically asking people to not drive into Santa Cruz for any reason, because they're trying to get people out and they're trying to save lives here. And so again, they're going to be here setting up shop. We know that they gave us a press release, a presser earlier this morning, updating us on those new numbers and their concerns, asking residents to stay out of the area. I'm glad you listed all of those different road closures and the evacuation centers for folks. If you missed any of that, all of that is online on Cron 4. We want to make sure you have access to that. So again, the residents that I've talked to in the area, many of them are nervous, very anxious. They know people that have had to evacuate in the area. One woman who I spoke to who lives here told me that she had a plan last year, but she's been so focused on trying to keep herself safe from the coronavirus that she did not anticipate anything like this. And so she is nowhere near ready, but she's starting to gather up her things in her bags right now to exit if she is asked by the firefighters to leave. So we're going to be on scene bringing you coverage from this fire and the many other ones across the Bay Area. But for now, I'll send it back to you in the studio.
And Raina, I have a couple of questions. So behind us, or behind you right now, is there any livestock or so forth? That area is known for a lot of people who like to have their horses and so I don't know if we've put out any information about where people can put their livestock or make sure that their horses are safe, or dogs and
yeah,
anything?
I have to take a look behind me as well. So no livestock immediately behind me, but this is where you have the law enforcement and firefighters setting up shop. And also, they have not updated us per the press conference that we had earlier about the livestock, but that's an excellent question. So we'll have to get that information and let people know. What's your second question?
Just as far as where people should go right now, and if you are noticing, are people told, are they spacing people out because of the pandemic? And I mean, there's so many moving parts right now with this pandemic, and then of course evacuating.
So, okay, like I mentioned, we have those evacuations listed on our website if you miss any of these, but I have a few to list off to you if you're watching right now. So we know evacuation centers, if you're watching, Pescadero High School, that's 360 Buisness Cutoff Road in Pescadero. We also know in Santa Cruz, there's the Fairgrounds. That was a newly added one. That's at 2601 East Lake Avenue in Watsonville. We know a number of people are being evacuated here in the area. Also, the residents where I'm currently at right now here, they're also being asked to be on close standby because the fire's moving and they don't have any handle on it. But again, if you missed any of those evacuation places or those road closures, it's a long list of those. So please go over to Cron 4. I just checked it. It's on the first page when you get there. So you'll be able to find it if you missed any of that information.
Always very important to keep everybody informed. So thank you so much, Raina. Be safe out there, and we will check in with you a little bit later on.
Thank you so much.
Now, let's check in on our Bay Area forecast with John Schrabel. Super important to find out how windy is it going to be, how dry is it going to be, the relative humidity out there. Take it away, John.
Yeah, those are all good questions to ask, Teresa, because wind and humidity, as we know, when you pair it with the heat that we already have, is not a good combination as far as fire weather goes. And it's one of the reasons that we saw the Hennessy fire explode so much last night and affect so many people in Vacaville, like we've been talking about. Winds are already picking up at the coast, where it was a relatively calm evening. You can see the flag there blowing a bit at the Golden Gate Bridge. And we are actually detecting on radar the smoke plume from the fire complex that's burning right there on the border of San Mateo and Santa Cruz counties. That is not rain. That is that smoke that is being sent high into the sky. Winds, as I mentioned, are starting to pick up near the coastline. Still calm in Novato up to Santa Rosa, but both fires burning in Sonoma and Marin counties will be susceptible to an increased sea breeze later in the day today. Also going to be susceptible, that smoke plume that you saw just a second ago, that's the fire burning there in northern portions of Santa Cruz County. Already seeing winds picking up in San Gregorio right there near the fire that's burning in the South Bay. Now for the big fire that had expanded so much overnight, the one that has already been in the midst of some very strong winds. Our breeziest spot overnight was the eastern flank of the coastal range in the western edge of the Central Valley. In these areas, the blazes that were burning right on the western side of Lake Berryessa expanded rapidly to the southeast overnight with strong northwest winds, which still do remain at Atlas Peak and Spanish Flat and will continue on into tomorrow morning. That's why Solano County is one of our highest fire danger areas and is under a red flag warning. It's the combination of the heat, the solid winds from the north that pushed through overnight and will continue to do so, and then very bone dry humidity in these areas. Red flag warning continues to 9 a.m. tomorrow when those winds hopefully do relax after that point. Look at futurecast of wind gusts here. While calm to start, winds generally pick up, especially for the North Bay and the coast into the afternoon. Gusts as high as 30 miles per hour in Solano, Napa, and Sonoma counties. These areas of especially high concern as far as fire danger goes. You already have blazes burning in these areas, and that's why officials are focusing so hard, especially up there in Solano County. High pressure is in place. That is keeping air sinking sinking. And one of the reasons the Bay Area is sitting under some of the worst air quality in the world right now with some hazy conditions. Those smoke plumes rise up, high pressure pushes that smoke right back down, and it filters out and settles in right across the bay. So it's hot. It's dry. It's going to be increasingly windy. We have sinking air, which makes it smoky. Not a good combination. So stay inside as much as possible, especially if you do have respiratory conditions. 60s and 70s near the coast today. A noticeable impact from that sea breeze that's going to push in. Not good for fires, but it is going to make temperatures just a touch less hot. San Carlos, Redwood City, and Mountain View each at 91 for your highs, while in the South Bay looking at 90s to even a triple digit hanging on in Morgan Hill. East Bay temperatures anywhere from the 80s to 90s from Hayward over to Livermore, while triple digits holding on in Danville, Walnut Creek, and Concord. 80s from Castro Valley through Oakland up to Richmond. 90s to triple digits in the North Bay. Vacaville notably near triple digits for you at 98 degrees with 30-mile-per-hour winds from the north and a very low humidity. You are under very high fire danger today. We've already had so many evacuations there. Santa Rosa at 96. 90s continue through Novato down to San Rafael. Tomorrow's temperatures will be a touch cooler. Not a big difference, though. We remain hot all the way into the weekend, just not as hot as we have been. Dry conditions and sunshine remain as well. Back to you, Teresa.
Thank you so much, John. Well, joining us right now on the phone is Roger Ghosh from the National Weather Service here in the Bay Area. Thank you so much for talking with us. Kind of tell us a little bit more about what we're going to be facing in the next 24 hours, especially for firefighters that are out there.
Yeah, so as John mentioned, one of our big concerns is the ongoing increase in wind speeds that were expected this afternoon. Very hot and dry conditions prevail across the entire Bay Area, and that's definitely not good for the ongoing fires. And as we typically see the sea breeze winds pick up in the afternoon and early evening hours, that's going to be a major concern, especially up in the North Bay and in the Santa Cruz and San Mateo area.
What about the humidity? When it's that dry, does that hurt or help firefighters?
Yeah, the very dry conditions are one of our biggest concerns. The winds are not as bad as what they typically would be in, say, October or September when we have really strong offshore wind events. But the humidity is critically low right now and very dry out there. And some of these areas are very forested and heavily, vegetation. So those fires are going to continue to burn, and the dry conditions are not going to help. It doesn't look like we really get any relief until maybe tomorrow with the dry conditions, and that's going to really only be in the lower elevations. Those higher elevations in the hills and the peaks across the mountainous areas are going to stay dry throughout the remainder of the week.
The one thing that we are seeing, that this picture that we've got out there right now, and this is, I believe, over in the Berryessa area showing the mountains. The one thing that I'm hearing again and again is the ash and the poor air quality. Now, those things, it's kind of a catch-22, right? Because if we have the wind, it might help knock that out. However, because we don't have the wind, it's just sitting, and that is problematic.
Very much so. That's why our air quality is so bad, is we're not seeing a really strong onshore wind to push the smoke further inland, which we typically see this time of year with fires. But then on the other side, like you mentioned, the wind could cause other problems. So the smoke's going to linger across the entire Bay Area for the next several days. We may see periods of a little improvement, especially along the coast, as those onshore winds pick up later this afternoon. But still above and up in the higher elevations, we're going to continue to see smoke covering much of the Bay Area for at least for the remainder of today and likely through the remainder of the week.
Okay, so take us, we did the 24 hours, go to 48 hours. So in 48 hours, Roger, how will that dynamic change?
Yeah, so we will see temperatures cool a little bit late in the week as we get an increase in onshore winds. And those onshore winds may help kind of push some of the smoke further inland into the portions of central California, and may give us a little bit of a reprieve near the coast. But overall, we're still going to stay very warm and dry through the remainder of the week, and we're also anticipating another warming trend starting on Saturday and Sunday. So it doesn't seem like we're going to see any major changes in the weather pattern that are going to be really good for firefighters, other than a slight increase in onshore moisture later this week near the coast.
What about as far as what we saw this past weekend from the lightning, which is why we're in the position that we are in now? I mean, that was some very wild weather that just kind of broke off of that cycled there off of, because it was kind of a tropical storm with that break off, correct?
That's correct, yeah. And so what we are keeping a close eye on is the potential for some additional moisture to move northward along the California coast this upcoming weekend as well. Right now, it's still too difficult to really tell if we're going to see another lightning event, but it is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. And as we're all aware, these lightning events are some of the conditions that really cause these widespread fires to break out, and that really limits our resources as far as firefighting efforts when we have such a large area that's been impacted by these fires.
And explain that lightning event. I mean, that was a break off, right? There was a part of that storm that just kind of broke off and then came into the Bay Area, causing that spectacular light show, yet at the same time causing so much damage, right?
Right. So those type of systems, it's basically, think of a river, and that moisture was up in the upper levels. You know, in the winter we get the heavy moisture pushing into the coast, and we get rain and it's cloudy. But in these type of situations, when that higher level moisture moves over the region, it's dry beneath that. And that's what causes us to get these dry lightning events, where it may be raining but never reach the ground, and the lightning strikes hit the ground and hit the surface in areas where there's no rainfall. And that's obviously hitting in some of these very heavily forested areas and starting wildfires. So that's always a concern when we talk about monsoonal moisture or moisture from tropical systems moving across the state in this time of year where we see little to no rainfall at the surface.
Well, what was interesting, I thought also, Roger, was that the system and the pattern is not necessarily typical for the Bay Area. So why then? Was it just kind of, you know, a recipe where all of those ingredients were just right to create that kind of situation?
Exactly, and it's not completely unheard of. It's just not very common, and we've had several large wildfire outbreaks due to similar situations. Exactly, and it's not completely unheard of. It's just not very common. Again, we've had high pressure over the desert Southwest, and that moisture riding along the western side of that is what caused that moisture to move right over and basically created the dynamic and the right setup for that type of a widespread lightning event.
As a native Californian and a native Bay Area,
if you think you're in danger.
this is the interactive map that we have up on our website, and a couple of things to draw your attention to. So with the interactive map, it allows you to see all of the range of the fires that are burning currently, the wildfires burning in the Bay Area. There's also a lot of information as far as the evacuations. And so we've put in, right here, you can tap and you can find out if, for example, you have friends that have been evacuated, the road closures, and more, so you know what's going on there. And then let's see if we can do the county of Sonoma has this map, so you can kind of stretch and see what else is going on in other of the counties, because they also have information in each county. So as I've been mentioning, there's the LNU, the CZU, and the SCU. So depending on where you live in the Bay Area, you can also have a better idea of where you can zero in if you have friends who are like near the Hennessy fire or near the Gamble fire or near the Green fire. And on this map right here that we have on our website, you can see how many fires are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So a lot of fires. So, and then you can click on it to get some more information. Like, for example, that's the Myers fire, 25 acres. And we've been talking a lot about Point Reyes, which is, you know, a gorgeous area. And that's the Woodward fire. And right now it was just mentioning that it was 0% contained. We heard the spokesperson with the Sheriff's Department, the Marin County Sheriff's Department, talking about that. What is this one right over here? This is the Markley fire. And we've got the Hennessy fire, which I already talked about. And we've got the Deer Zone. So we're understanding that the CAL FIRE spokesperson is walking up. So let's listen in to see the latest information on all these fires.
Lead Public Information Officer for the LNU Lightning Complex. We'll give you a current situational update quickly regarding the state. Over the past 72 hours, California has experienced a historic lightning siege that has resulted in approximately 10,849 lightning strikes across the state, causing more than 375 fire engines from out-of-state firefighting agencies through the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, known as EMAC. Out-of-state hand crews have also been requested to support state and federal incidents, as the demand for hand crews far surpasses available resources. Nearly all available private firefighting call when needed aircraft in the western United States have been hired and assigned to the incidents. The size and complexity at which these incidents are burning is challenging all aspects of emergency response. It is critical that the community heeds the warnings of law enforcement and remain prepared to evacuate at a moment's notice. Here are some quick statistics as of this morning. CAL FIRE wildland fires are 5,571 with acres burned of over 105,000. Federal wildland fires, over 1,100 with acres burned over 200,000. Combined fires just at 6,754 with a combined acreage of over 300,000 acres. Speaking specifically to the LNU Lightning Complex, for anybody that would like information, we have a 24-hour information line assigned at area code 707-967-4207. We will now give you specific information for the LNU Lightning Complex, and please hold any questions till the end. I'd like to introduce our Operation Chief, Chris Waters.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Chris Waters, Operations Section Chief for the LNU Lightning Complex. I'm going to go talk about the operation we have going right now. Currently, just as a big picture, we've got the fire broken into what we call 3 zones. We have the west zone, which is primarily Sonoma County. We have the north zone, which is northern Napa County and just the southern tip of Lake County. And then we have the south zone, which is southern Napa County, a little bit of Yolo County, and then also Solano County. Start with the fires over in the west zone. We have the Wallbridge and the Myers. Wallbridge, situated just north of Armstrong Woods in the community of Guerneville. Right now, with a red flag warning over the area, we're currently in preparation for evacuations, structure defense, and then doing some perimeter control. For the fires over in the west zone, we have the Wallbridge and the Myers. Wallbridge, situated just north of Armstrong Woods in the community of Guerneville. Right now, with a red flag warning over the area, we're currently in preparation for evacuations, structure defense, and then doing some perimeter control as well. In the north zone, we have fires strung out basically from Lake County line, just north of the Lake County line, down to about central Lake Berryessa, where that zone boundary is. These fires, the Green, the Spanish, the Gamble, and the Morgan, we're trying to ascertain whether or not those fires have actually merged. Again, we're planning for evacuations. We're doing structure defense, and then we're taking advantage of doing perimeter line construction where we can find favorable and safe locations to do so. Same thing in the south. Last night, a lot of the activity that was seen along the highway, Highway 80, and then also up in Napa was a fire moving south from the area, the Hennessy fire, which got established and started moving south towards Atlas Peak, and then all the way down to Vacaville and Highway 80. Again, firefighter safety, public safety, evacuation planning, and then some perimeter control is going to take place where this fire is coming down off of this ridge. Tactical priorities today: firefighter and public safety, evacuation planning, structure and infrastructure defense, and then also perimeter control where it's safe and we can actually get at this fire and be successful with limited resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Waters. Also, now we'd like to
CHP Chief Sampson. Good morning. My name is Mark Essick. I'm the Sheriff of Sonoma County. I'm here with my colleagues today from Napa County Sheriff, Solano County Sheriff, and Lake County Sheriff, and our local CHP command to talk to you about evacuations. First off, I want to acknowledge that this is an incredibly emotional and stressful time for many of us who have endured many fires and natural disasters over the last couple of years. We realize that this is a trigger point for many in the public, and we ask that you please go to your plan. We've all been working on this for the last couple of years. Go to your plan, be ready, follow the plan when it comes time to evacuate. You will notice that all of our agencies here in a unified front have put together a high-low siren system. So when your neighborhood or your area that you live in is under an evacuation, you will hear deputies from Sonoma County, Napa County, Lake County, and Solano County in your neighborhoods with the high-low siren. The high-low siren is unique. It means it's time to go. High-low means it's time to go. So we ask that you listen for that. Deputies will be in your neighborhood along with other law enforcement partners to help you evacuate and direct you to areas of safety. We know that you're more prepared than last year, as I mentioned, but please evacuate and direct you to areas of safety through official channels. If you think you're in danger, we know that you're more prepared than last year, as I mentioned, but please evacuate and direct you to areas of safety through official channels. If you think you're in danger, we know that you're more prepared than last year, as I mentioned, but please evacuate various parts of the counties. So please follow their directions, respect that they are doing their best to keep calm, give you direction on how to evacuate the area, and give you that guidance. Please follow their directions. We're continuing to work with CAL FIRE to closely monitor the situation. This is a fast-moving and rapidly changing situation. Every member of these sheriff's offices and our law enforcement partners are here for you. Please call us if you need us. We will be there for you. You can also follow all of our agencies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates. And also, we encourage you to sign up for Nixle alerts. The big message here is take care of each other, check on your neighbors, make sure that they are prepared as you are, and please follow our directions. Is there anything I missed that the sheriffs would like to cover? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. At this time, we'd like to invite up our unit chief, Chief Jones.
Good morning. Thank you all for listening in today. Over the last 72 hours, our firefighters in Sonoma, Lake, Napa, Yolo, and Solano counties have been fighting fires that have occurred from the lightning siege. The LNU complex is very large, and acreage this morning was estimated combined to be over 42,000 acres. I have to tell you that the lightning strikes that Chief Ron explained to you this morning that have occurred over all of California, 60 fires approximately materialized from those lightning strikes within the counties I mentioned. Unfortunately, several fires got away from us, and with the resources that we had available to us in the unit, it expanded beyond our abilities, and we asked for some assistance from one of our incident management teams. And Chief Kavanaugh with Incident Management Team 2 is here and has taken control or command of the incident. I'd like to say that the resources that have been on these fires for the past 72 hours are the same resources that have been out there for the last 72 hours. They are fully engaged and happy to do so to protect you. However, it is imperative, you heard the message from our cooperators, from our law enforcement, from Sheriff Essick and all of the counties standing behind him. You have to evacuate when we ask you to. Please heed the warnings and the orders. It is for your protection and ours. If you are helping us, then we can help you protect your property. Thank you very much. Please be safe.
Thank you, Chief. Now I'd like to invite up Incident Commander Chief Kavanaugh.
Okay, good morning and thank you. So the past 24 hours here on the LNU Lightning Complex has been pretty dynamic with not only the fire growth and the fire behavior that we witnessed yesterday and also overnight into the early hours of this morning. We had new starts that took off yesterday that have made it more complex from some lightning holdovers that started out yesterday. So right now, geographically, the LNU complex, we are in 5 counties. What that means is cooperation. And the folks standing behind me and everybody else that's involved in these incidents, it's about cooperation and communication. That is the key to success. That is the key to getting the message out to the public and to all of our cooperators. So I would like to thank everybody for the cooperation and communications that we're establishing. As we look at today, the fire weather, not only in this region, but throughout the Northern California, it's a tough day today. It's possibly with the hot, dry winds that may occur this afternoon that may hamper some of our control efforts. We are sharing resources up and down the state as there are many large fires that are occurring in different counties. As Chief Jones just alluded to, resources are stretched thin. But the main key that I want to talk on, and everybody behind me has already talked about this, is the evacuation orders. Please, if there's an evacuation order, please adhere to that order. Do not come back into your residence or your area if there's an order. What that does is, and you get impacted with fire, you're putting your life at risk, you're putting the lives of the law enforcement that's out there that's trying to help do those evacuations, and you're putting the lives of all the first responders at risk if you become trapped. The other key message is you don't have to wait for evacuation order. As already been stated here, if you have a go bag, have stuff packed up, ready to go, if you feel any type of threat whatsoever, make that decision. Make that decision to please leave your home. Last thing we want is for people to be trapped in their homes and not be able to get out. Also with evacuations, as we go, our key is to try to get people back in their homes as quick as possible. We do not like to have people evacuated, but we have to do that for the safety of everybody's lives and the public out there. With that, once again, please adhere to those orders when they do come around. We're in this for a long haul. And so these communities down here in the counties that we're in over the last few years have all been impacted heavily with fires. The communities there's been tragic incidents down here, not only with loss of life, but also with the loss of infrastructure and homes. But one thing I do know, the communities are strong down here. And with the help of everybody behind me and the help with you, we'll get through this. I appreciate it, and everybody have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. As we've mentioned, this is a very dynamic incident. It is rapidly expanding, but we will have just a couple minutes for a few questions if anybody has a question they'd like to ask.
Yeah,
right over here on the side.
Yeah, the update for the fires that are burning in Vacaville and in Winters, is that part of the LNU complex?
Correct. All of the fires that are within those areas are part of the complex itself. We will be working on more specific information as it's confirmed for those specific fires in those counties. Right now, if for the current time, if everybody could go to the social media pages, we push out updates morning and afternoon, and any evacuations, orders, or warnings will go out throughout the day, or any significant information throughout the day. So we send an update out in the morning, typically by 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., and then we'll get the specific information in there as it is confirmed.
Do we have any confirmation on homes at this point or anything in those two areas in Yolo County and Solano County in that area?
Within the entire complex, yes, we do have confirmation of homes. As of this morning, it was 50 damaged and 50 destroyed. We do anticipate that number to be larger than that. It would be safe to say there's multiple buildings that have been damaged or destroyed beyond that amount, but we need to confirm those numbers before we get them out. Thanks. Question?
Hi, Jeremy. It seems like compared to some other big fire events of the last few years, we're not seeing a ton of air support. I could be wrong about that, so correct me if I am. What's the reason for that? Are you getting what you need or close to what you need? And is there any chance of increasing that air power?
As you look at the state of California, we are very challenged in getting the air support we need on most of all fires that we have throughout the state. Right now, the air support that we are getting has been prioritized, and it's worked through a system to be specific to this fire as well as any new fires. As we learned yesterday, we had multiple new fires that did come to light that we've had to go into work on extinguishment or containment.
Do you have any idea of total air force that you have in this complex right now?
As far as helicopters, we have 5 helicopters that are assigned to this incident, and then we have numerous other air resources that, as they come available, will be brought into the incident to support it as we can. And Chief, you want to add to that?
When it comes to the air assets that we have air assets that are signed, but for when there's new starts throughout the state, or those air assets have to be pulled. With the number of large incidents that are burning in pretty much from San Benito, Monterey, and even Southern California all the way up to the north that are starting here in the last couple of days, the air assets are stretched thin. And I'll be honest with you, all assets are stretched thin. We are doing everything we can to try to mitigate and evaluate where those resources go and how they're utilized. So the one thing with like I said, with the air assets, with helicopters, fixed wing, we can have them working on what we have here, but if we break a new fire, let's say we break a new fire up in North Lake County, they're going to have to be pulled. If we break a new fire over, let's say, into Butte County or somewhere else, those assets may be pulled. Okay.
I know the fires are by their nature unpredictable and fluid as they spread, but as you project and talk to your people in the field, are there specific locations and time frames that you're especially concerned about right now in terms of this complex?
Chris, we'll have operations touch on that.
Yeah, so right now, as you know, we're under a red flag warning. So anywhere there are communities in proximity south of active fires, right now we're really worried about those locations. We're currently in the process of planning evacuations and reaching out to those folks and working with our law enforcement partners to evacuate those folks. But yes, any communities that are situated at a southerly location south of the fires are of high concern right now, and that's where we're focusing most of our attention right now, on planning evacuations and starting to get folks out of there. We've done a tremendous number of evacuations over last night, and we're continuing to expand those evacuations as the day goes on. We still don't know what we're going to see. We have a prediction that came from our meteorologists here at the incident, and we're basing all our actions on that information.
Do you have any idea of the total number of evacuations?
I don't have an actual number. It involves 5 counties, and it's extremely complex, and it's changing all the time. So that's numbers that will come as we start to gather up further intel.
Okay, again, I want to thank you all for attending today. And again, anybody that needs information, public or media, you can contact 707-967-4207. And again, please have a safe day. Thank you.
Hi, you've been listening to a news conference, and that was officials with CAL FIRE, as well as some sheriff's department spokesperson, including the sheriff of Sonoma County, just walking us through some of the details about the fires that are raging out of control in the entire Bay Area, stretching to Sonoma County, Solano County, and down south. Basically saying that they had 10 lightning strikes, and they've got a massive amount of calls out to private enterprises to try and get aircraft into the area. They said that it was challenging the resources that are currently in California, challenging all aspects. They are asking and pleading with people that if you do get an alert from law enforcement about an evacuation, to please leave. They say that they understand that this is a very troubling situation, but right now, if you're in any of those areas, especially if you have an evacuation order that is voluntary, make sure you've got that go bag collected now. The other days, I think it was Saturday night going into Sunday, there was a fire close to me, and I did not have my act together and did not have my go bag packed. And it is a horrible feeling to only have a couple of minutes to gather your stuff and to get out of your home. So please make sure that you put together a go bag. And they were just asking to please heed law enforcement. When they say to go, please go. They were talking about how they've got more than 300,000 acres that have burned so far, and they kind of broke down where we're at, but it basically is in every region and every fire that is going on right now that they are out of control. The one thing that I found to be striking was that in Napa County, they say that the fire got away from them overnight and that the fingers have just reached out, and that is one of the reasons why we're having such bad air quality, is because we've had these fires that just were able to skip the lines where the resources are so stretched thin, and that is causing a lot of problems. We have the National Weather Service spokesperson that can talk to us right now. The one thing that I think that is alarming for so many people right now is how bad the weather is when we talk about the air quality, and that's just because of the low pressure that we have, right?
Well, actually, we don't have a whole lot of onshore flow that typically pushes any smoke across our region into the interior portions of the state. So that smoke is really just lingering across the region and generally blowing to the south and southeast. But with so many wildfires going on across the region, it's just a combination of all of that together, and really a lack of that stronger onshore wind, which would also typically bring us some cooler temperatures.
And what are you seeing model-wise? We were talking earlier about the kind of bring us to 24 hours. I know that we just got a warning from PG&E about how there's possibly another flex alert that's going to happen this afternoon. So I know that, we're being kind of hit and slammed in so many different directions, Roger.
Yeah, well, a lot of that is really attributed to the high pressure that's been parked over the desert southwest the past several days. And that's what brought us those really hot temperatures this past weekend, along with those thunderstorms that moved across the region. So really and truly, we're not seeing a breakdown of that ridge of high pressure until, well, it doesn't really look like anytime soon. We cool off slightly as we head into the next couple of days, especially Thursday and Friday. And we may get a little bit of a marine layer return, so we may see some of those coastal clouds return to coastal areas. But where the fires are ongoing across the interior and up in the Santa Cruz Mountains and even down in the central coast along the Big Sur coast, those higher elevations are still going to stay warm and dry for the next several days.
We have this map from Air Now, and you can see just how bad the air quality is on this map. And it really, it stretches all the way down to San Luis Obispo and then goes all the way up. And then you can also see, like, for example, up in Chico, it's bad up there. I know that some kids are trying to head off to school and college. We've got so many moving parts right now.
That's exactly right. There are so many moving parts, and unfortunately, we don't see any major pattern shift that would completely scour out all the smoke. And again, as long as the fires are continuing to rage and put out more smoke, we may not see a significant clearing of the smoke, at least through the remainder of the week.
And then what are firefighters facing out on those ridge lines? This is dense land. It is difficult to get in there. And then my head goes to the space about the fact that there's also a pandemic. And, we were talking to some of the firefighters, and they can't, out on the line, be masked up. It just really is what's just some crazy times.
That's right. And with so many different fires going across the state right now, the resources are also limited, even taking out the factor of COVID. So it's a very dangerous situation. The very hot and dry conditions are going to persist. Even though we get a little bit of relief the next couple of days, it still doesn't look like we're going to see a significant improvement in moisture or cool down across the region. So it looks like we're going to be in it for the long haul.
And then we can see that, the density out there of how bad the air quality is. This is a picture in the Berryessa area up on the ridgeline, and you can see just how dirty the air is. And it's just a prime example of what you were talking about, the conditions that are currently in our region. And as you're mentioning, there's not a great visual looking forward.
Yeah, that's correct. Until we see a significant pattern shift that would help the firefighters put these fires out and or moisture increase to really push some of that smoke and all that dirty particles further inland. It doesn't look like we're going to see significant improvements anytime in the near future, and especially as long as the fires continue to be out of control and uncontained. There's just going to continue to pump more smoke into the atmosphere.
Tell me about the temperature range. Where are we as far as temperatures are concerned? Are we going to have that like 106, or is that mostly going to be in the Sacramento, Davis, Chico, that area?
Well, you know what? Honestly, the hot temperatures are going to persist. Like I said, they'll cool a few degrees later in the week. But currently today, our temperatures are not actually getting as hot as we had anticipated because we have so much smoke. The smoke is actually acting as a little bit of a reflectant of the solar radiation. So we're actually seeing temperatures slightly cooler than what we had the past few days. But that still doesn't help with our air quality, for sure.
It does not help at all. I mean, I would say that the vast majority of California kids are inside doing distance learning. Either, you know, in the past couple weeks, I know is when San Jose started. I know that up in the North Bay, it's today. Kids are inside doing college classes. But at the same time, everybody wants to go outside and take a break. But, you know, the reality is what we're seeing.
Yeah, that's correct. And unfortunately, that high pressure is really going to stay the dominant weather feature across the desert Southwest and into California, even coming up into this upcoming weekend. So right now we're trying to take things one day at a time and one fire at a time, and hopefully that we'll get a little bit of help from the marine layer later this week. But again, that's going to really be in the lower elevations.
And Roger, you and I were talking about, you know, everybody's got a to-do list about, oh, I want to do this landscaping or I want to do this. But this is not the time to, like, go and mow the lawn. This is not the time, you know, this is the time to make some wise choices and to make sure that you pivot and not cause any problem and just be more on the conservative side.
That's correct. We shouldn't have anybody doing anything related to that may cause any sparks out there at all. And that goes to mowing or pulling trailers that may have a chain dragging on the highway. Those are some of the things that do start wildfires that are man-made. But again, most of these fires that started are attributed to the thunderstorms that moved across the region this past weekend, and we can't control those, so we can only control what we can. And the main thing is folks need to be mindful of any kind of evacuation orders that the local or county officials may be issuing, and really stay up to date with those.
I'm pulling up some of the Twitter from the National Weather Service, and everything from, you know, if we go over to Reno, I mean, you can see how the dense smoke is just moving across California and then, you know, littering the skies, all, you know, as it moves eastward, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And right now it's not moving a whole lot eastward. So again, that's why it's really locked in over the Bay Area, and probably the Central Coast down in the Carmel Valley and those areas are some of the hardest hit with the air quality right now. But again, these fires are ongoing, and they're going to continue to put more smoke in the atmosphere, and until we get something to really clear it out and put those fires down to rest, we're going to be in it for the long haul.
Okay, thank you very much, Roger. We always appreciate your insight and giving us kind of a heads up on what we're going to face in the next 24, 48 hours. Right now, we want to turn our attention over to Charles Clifford. He pulled over off the side of the road to kind of give us some sights and sounds of what he's facing. Wow. Where are you? And boy, that looks horrible.
Okay. So I am along Pleasance Valley Road, which is to the north of Vacaville, basically from 80 several miles to Highway 128. And it is pretty much a scene of just devastation out here. I mean, it is really stunning how much destruction this fire has wrought out here. So in the middle, I talked to some neighbors. They said about in the middle of the night, cops were knocking on their door saying it's time to go. And within minutes, the fire had swept through here and destroyed, I don't know how many homes. I mean, I drove for probably 7 or 8 miles, and there was a destroyed home about every 400 yards. So there are a lot of homes out here that burned down. There are a lot that are still standing. It's kind of that strange thing where one home is standing, the one next to it is burned down. It doesn't make any sense. I actually, over here I was driving along and there were some embers burning in a tree, and it actually fell on a house, and I watched a house burn down. There was no cell service. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. There's very few firefighters out here because this is a very large fire scene. They are spread out. They're dealing with other fires all over the region. So it is difficult for fire crews to get in here and stop this. If you take a look behind me here, this line of smoke you see kind of burning on the ridge. Actually, if I pan over a little bit, you might be able to see some flames there on the other side of that fence post or that power pole. But over there, this is kind of the front edge of the fire as it's moving to the north and east up into the hills. The fire came from this direction, burning this way. So it was yesterday I was over near Hennessy Reservoir in Napa County. That's where this fire was. This is the Hennessy fire we're talking about. And it was burning, creating a lot of smoke, but it wasn't moving very fast. There was no wind pushing it. But this thing just exploded overnight and burned through here, and all the hills behind me here, you can't see it because it's smoky, but this is all burned down. It's swept down into this valley, which is just a beautiful California, stereotypical, beautiful little valley with one road running through it. Lots of beautiful ranch homes, and it just came through here and just devastated this area. There are a lot of animals trapped in fields out here. There's a lot of dead animals, small wildlife along the road, dead turkeys out in the field. It just swept through here and did a lot of damage, and it's not over. There's still a lot of active fire, as you can see over here. And they've got the 128 and Pleasance Valley Road all closed off to the public. The cars you see and going by here are actually people are being evacuated from the front edge of the fire, trying to get out of here. They've got their horse trailers full of home stuff. They're trying to get out. So it is a very chaotic scene out here right now, Teresa.
Pull up a map. So you are on what road? So I can kind of get a better idea. So are you on 128?
Sure. No. So I'm on Pleasance Valley Road. I'm actually just maybe 100 yards off of Pleasance Valley Road on kind of a side road that I don't know the name of. But essentially Pleasance Valley Road, maybe roughly halfway between Interstate 80 and Highway 128. And if you take 128, that goes all the way over to Napa, kind of where this fire started. So I'm on Pleasance Valley Road, and that's kind of where the destruction and the damage is right now. And the front edge of the fire, right behind me here, is kind of to the northeast of Pleasance Valley Road. And the other thing we're seeing, from time to time, you see a plume of black smoke like that going up, and that means it's some heavy fuel or possibly a home or a structure or something heavier than grass is burning. And you'll see that quite often out here. You'll see that big black plume of smoke go up like that. So that's kind of a, an unsettling sign there as well. There's also a lot of law enforcement, highway patrol. We've got Vacaville PD out here, lots of people patrolling the area, trying to get people out, trying to look for any sort of problems, keep an eye out for any hot spots. And right behind me here, I think this is a sheriff's deputy. Yeah, so that's a Solano County Sheriff's deputy, and they're running back and forth on these roads, lights on, just making sure that people are getting out of here and there aren't any problems. And they're trying to do what they can to save some of these homes out here. But it was really stunning driving down the road. You just see just a mile of melted fence posts and burned fence posts and burned homes and cars on fire, and just really sad of what's happening out here right now.
We heard from CAL FIRE just a couple of minutes ago, and they were just basically saying that the fire got away from them last night and that they are not necessarily scrambling, because I don't want to imply that, but they said that they are trying to do what they can right now with limited resources, and the resources stretch so thin just because there are so many fires going on. Tell me a little bit about the conditions as far as the heat right now. We've had this high heat for the past couple of days. Temperature-wise, where are you right now? 80s?
I would say it's upper 80s, lower 90s right now. It's not, it's not as hot as we've seen over the last couple of days, but it's heavy smoke. So there's a lot of ash in the air. It's almost snowing ash, and there's no wind at the moment. Yesterday when I was over at the Hennessy fire, they were building bulldozer lines, but from what I could see, they were building it sort of on the north side of the fire. This fire spread to the south and east, and saying it got away from them, that is an accurate statement. It really did. And it's not their fault. They're just spread thin, and this fire just got too big, too fast, and it was moving in the middle of the night through rugged terrain. There's really nothing anyone can do A lot of folks around here are aware of wildfires. This is a region, probably every year I come to this area, you know, between Winters and Vacaville and this mountain range here, I come to fires here all the time. So people are well aware that that is a danger. A lot of people do defensible space around their homes. You can tell as you drive along, but sometimes it doesn't matter. You know, you get an ember burning that's caught on the wind, and it will fall on a tree, which will hit a house and burn it down. The one next to it, you know, that doesn't have any defensible space might be fine. It's really just a really random thing sometimes with these fires on what burns and what doesn't. You know, I'm being a little dramatic here, but most of the homes around here are okay. There's just a lot of homes that have burned down, and it's not over yet. Like as you can see behind me here, you know, the flames and the smoke are still kind of advancing up this hill, up that ridge, and there's quite a few homes buried in the trees back there behind me. So this thing's not over yet, and it'll probably go over the ridge there. The wind is generally kind of blowing in this direction, so that's pushing the fire kind of to the northeast, roughly, from where I'm standing.
One thing that strikes me is that normally out on the fires, we see this air assault where you've got the fixed wing and you've got the helicopters picking up, and we've got all kinds of, you've got the lagoon right over there by where you are located, but I haven't seen anything.
No, and that's something we talked about yesterday with CAL FIRE, is that their air resources are spread thin right now. There are fires burning all across the state. And they have to prioritize the saving of homes and lives and do what they can with those helicopters. I've been here for a couple hours, not a single aircraft of any sort that I've seen flying over this, not a spotter, not an air tanker, not a helicopter, nothing. And I've been standing along this road here talking to you for about 5 minutes now, and there's not a single fire truck has gone by, and I'm pretty much right at the front edge of this fire. So it's you know, that's not putting any blame on CAL FIRE whatsoever. It's just that this is a big fire. There are a lot of fires. They are spread thin. They are doing what they can. You know, the highway patrol's out here assisting neighbors. Some people I heard didn't leave. I hope they are okay. I did talk to one gentleman who was walking down the street there trying to get back to his house to see if it was all right. I talked to him. Hopefully we'll be able to hear from him a little later today. Also talked to a group of people who were rescuing animals. They had horse trailers. They were trying to get horses and cows and anything they could out of the burn zone. They say it's been a very, very busy summer for them, and it's nowhere near being over. They're going to be at this for probably weeks or months. You know, we are there's a lot of fire season left between now and the rainy season, and a lot could happen. And they were talking about, you know, just trying to get the animals out of there, and some have already been lost, and people are upset. I talked to some folks who were evacuated. They were upset. They didn't want to go on camera or talk to me, but they seemed pretty rattled, you know. And the one guy I did talk to along the side of the road said he woke up in the middle of the night with a cop slamming on his door saying, "Get out." He went to bed that night. The fire was miles away in another county. He wasn't worried at all. And in the middle of the night, he woke up and had to leave home with virtually nothing. He just, you know, was throwing what he had in the car, and they took off, and within a half hour the fire had reached their house. So there's a lot going on out here. It could be hotter, it could be worse. The wind could be blowing. We've got very little wind at the moment, so that, if there's any sort of silver lining, is good, that this fire is not advancing too much at the moment. But you know, who knows what'll happen with the rest of the day.
Exactly. So I'm trying to again pinpoint where you are at, and I have a map up. Have you crossed Puta Creek Road, or did you come off of 128 from Winters?
Well, I didn't know you were going to ask me map directions. Let me find out here.
Sorry.
I'll tell you exactly where I'm at.
Well, I was just trying to give a better perspective of where...
No, it's okay. So I'm... Yeah, so I'm I'm on Pleasant Valley Road and Vaca Valley Road. That's kind of roughly where I am, which is on Pleasant Valley Road, about halfway between 80 and 128. Yeah.
So you're by Bucktown.
It looks like this area is called Bucktown.
Yeah, you're by Bucktown. I just found you. So I know exactly where you're at. Bucktown, so I just wanted to be able to give people a better understanding where you're at, so that they can understand what homes have been affected. So basically, we can see where you're at. They're just coming off of 80 on Pleasants Valley Road. And so you were saying, as you were traveling on Pleasants Valley Road, that's where you saw the houses burn down?
Yeah, so most of the damage you can see is along Pleasants Valley Road. And that's where I didn't count how many homes. It's really hard to tell what's a home and what may have been just a shed. that burned down, but there were probably dozens of burned structures along that route between 128 and 80. And as I mentioned, I watched a house burn down. Embers up in a tree, the embers fell. I pulled over, watched it happen right in front of me. Nobody drove by. There was no one to flag down. There was no cell service. I have a fire extinguisher, but it wouldn't have done any good in this case. It was just too high. So it was just really sad. That house in particular had survived the night, but then got caught by an ember, after the main fire had went through. I don't know if you can see me, but behind me here, there's a home, and there's a guy out there on his phone with his dog watching the fire burn outside his house. And you can kind of see there's that column of black smoke on the other side of his home there. So that guy didn't leave, apparently. He stuck around. There's also, might be a little hard to see, but there's some fire crews out in this field keeping an eye on anything. I don't see any engines out there, but
as
so
far
there's
as
still a lot of activity out here right now.
when you were driving from the Bay Area, did you notice that the air quality progressively got worse?
So I live on the peninsula, and in that area, it's terrible. Going through San Francisco, not that great. When I got to the East Bay, it actually improved. Driving up 80 through, up there through Richmond, and the air quality improved a little bit. But then as I got closer to Vacaville, I went through Fairfield, it was okay, but you could just see the cloud hanging over Vacaville. And when you got into Vacaville, that's when things really, really got smoky. And a lot of ash falling right here. There's behind me here, we'll kind of take a look. This is a vineyard. You can just see the haze hanging in the hills up there. And it's pretty fine to see, but you might be able to see the ash falling here on the grapes behind me. So there's a lot of ash, a lot of smoke.
So from here, are you going to continue along Pleasance Valley Road to try and see what else you can find? Is there a command post up there to talk to fire crews?
So from what I can tell, I drove, basically, I think I was on 128 for a while. I drove quite a long ways. I've shot a lot of video, which we'll try to show a little later today. After a while, not to be glib, but it kind of all looks the same after a while. So I shot a bunch. I talked to some folks. The plan now is I'm going to try to get to somewhere with a little better cell service and try to put some of that video together so we can show it throughout the day this afternoon. And I may go on here. There's kind of if you continue on this road, there's kind of a subdivision of Vacaville, or a suburb of Vacaville out here. We may drive into there and see what we can find. And then go back towards where they've got the road blocked off. The highway patrol has the road blocked off. There were some people hanging out there, so we might drive over that way as well. It's just kind of, we're going to go to see where, what's happening today and what we can do.
Very good. Well, we have just been able to get the Vacaville fire chief on the phone. So we are going to let you get to a location where you can send back some of that video. But let's switch gears and then talk to the chief. Hi, Chief. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. So can you kind of paint the scene? I understand that conditions really got a bit wild overnight.
Yes, the fire actually bumped into the city a little bit quicker than we had anticipated. So we had to call for some immediate evacuations overnight, and so we had to evacuate roughly between 4,000 and 4,500 homes that were threatened as a result of the fire. Our law enforcement officers were out all night, going door to door to make sure people were getting out safely, and our firefighters were out all night protecting the homes. So I'm happy to report that with all of their efforts, there have been no homes within the city limits of Vacaville that have been damaged.
So most of the homes that have been destroyed there are more like in Bucktown or stretching over into like off of Pleasance Valley Road, right?
I don't know specifically where those homes are. I'm not tied to that part of the incident command, and so I can only speak for the city of Vacaville.
So in Vacaville in particular, when did the alert go out as far as 4,000 to 4,500 residents?
It was in two separate events. One was roughly right around, I'm trying to remember, about 2 o'clock in the morning. and then the other one was a little bit later, a few hours later, right around 6:30 or so.
And then those alerts, they went out on text alerts. Now, that said, was the fire reaching over, in regards to Vacaville, was it reaching more over on, as you mentioned, on the east side of 80 or on the west side?
On the west side of 80. So that's where the fire threatened the homes, was on the west side of the city. It bumped up first on our northwest neighborhood, and then that later evacuation was from the northeast side of the city in the Browns Valley area of Vacaville.
Okay, and then I've got a map on right now. So if we were talking about, for example, the outlets, it's more on the left side, where like is that Gibson Canyon Road? So more over in that area.
Yeah.
By the
So
airport?
where the outlets are on the opposite side of the freeway as where the fire came in. So the fire came in off of if you look at the very north neighborhood in the city of Vacaville, it's called the Cheyenne North Central, and then if you go down a little bit further south on the west side of the in the Alamo neighborhood and North Orchard neighborhood, that's where the fire really hit hard in the early morning hours.
And then, Chief, where did this, were these embers, just to educate me, were they embers from the LNU fire that jumped the lines?
Yeah. So as far as well, no, they just I don't think they had I don't think they had any containment. So the fire just traveled and followed the topography, and so it was a result of those fires that I believe started in Napa.
Okay, and then where are you now as far as fighting the fire? We haven't seen a lot of aircraft, and there's usually like this massive force out there, but we haven't seen that.
Right. And so I'm speaking specifically for the city of Vacaville, and so the portion of the incident where we are, our primary function and objective is to protect the homes. In the city of Vacaville. So as far as aircraft, I can't speak to that. I don't know what the situation is with that. It would be the incident command through CAL FIRE that would have that information.
Sure. Now, as far as Vacaville, what is happening right now as far as trying to limit the damage from the fires?
Well, we're continuing to monitor the fire that's coming into the city. Our folks are working tirelessly to make sure that the fire doesn't enter into the city limits. They've done some real great work. I mean, I was out there early this morning and watching a 40-foot flame length wall of fire coming, bumping up against the edge of the city, and our firefighters were able to prep the homes and the property with defensible space and clearing out the space so that it wouldn't affect the property. So we're continuing to do that. We're continuing to prep homes and take a look at kind of predict where the fire is threatening our city the most, and prepping those homes to make sure that it doesn't affect any homes in the city.
And where are you asking people to go right now?
So the city of Vacaville has three of our the city facilities are open as evacuation centers. It's McBride Senior Center, it is Elatis Community Center, as well as the skate facility on Davis. And then also the school district, Vacaville Unified School District, has graciously provided us 4 of their campuses and made them available as evacuation centers. And so 4,500 homes that are affected by the evacuations. So as far as the number of actual people, I don't have the number. On that.
Okay, and then
But obviously more than the 40.
we are looking at this picture from Vacaville, and it talked about the evacuations at Alamo Drive up west of North Orchard. Where is the area that you are most concerned about right now? Is that the Browns Valley area?
The Browns Valley area is where we have the most active fire that's going right now, out on the north part of the city. And then we were also monitoring some of the fire on the south part of the city that was bumping up against I-80.
Okay. And then do you have line crews out there to try and make sure that it doesn't skip over?
Well, so our crews, our fire crews, are strictly for at this point we have limited resources, so all we are able to do, and working for the Cal Fire incident, all we're able to do is structure defense. So we're at this point we have limited resources, and all we're doing is protecting the homes right now.
And Chief, how hot is it? I mean, we've had this incredibly punitive heat wave that's struck the whole area.
Yeah, so right now, according to my watch, the temperature right outside of where I am is about 94 degrees. The high temperature today is predicted to hit 102. And then the other complicating factor is that the humidity, relative humidity, is supposed to be in the single digits, which is a recipe for extreme fire weather. So we're monitoring the situation very carefully, prepping our homes as best as we can to make sure that none of the homes are affected by the fire.
Chief, you've been there in that area for a very long time. Give us kind of a scale of how we are on this. I remember driving through that area on 80, probably last year at this time, and there was, a fire in the area. Is this more severe than you've seen in times past?
Yes, I've actually only been here for 5 years, so I'm used to fire behavior from Southern California. But in the 5 years that I've been here, it's the most severe that I've ever seen. Like I said, the wall of fire that I experienced earlier this morning is something that you don't see very often during even a career.
Wow. And then, Chief, a message to those people. I know it's very difficult to evacuate. Nobody wants to leave. But at the same time, it really helps you guys if they do leave so that you can focus on protecting structures.
Yes, absolutely. So the message that I have for our residents is if you are asked to evacuate by our law enforcement officers, remember they have other people that are trying to get out of there and they're going door to door. So please follow whatever guidance they provide you and do so immediately and do so safely.
And then as far as, is this a time to just really kind of take stock and putting together those go bags so that if you are in an area and you may get that order to go, you're ready to go?
Absolutely. I mean, it should have been done before now, but because of the fact that there's a possibility that we're going to, we might anticipate some further, there may need to be further evacuations. Please monitor, for example, your broadcast. Monitor our website, our social media sites. My interview just said that we did send Nixle. We normally send alert Solano also, which is a reverse 911 system.
Okay.
So mass notification.
Okay, so different ways. So that's always really to make sure that you're tuned into your social media so that you can get those alerts and then take actions accordingly. The one thing also, this is not the time to be out there, mowing the lawn or doing anything that could potentially spark a fire, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely not. And then the other thing, too, is what I noticed when I was out driving is we have a lot of people that are curious onlookers. And that now is not the time to be doing that. So if you've been asked to evacuate the area, evacuate the area, get out of there. And the reason being is because we've got fire crews coming in, and they're trying their best to do what they can to protect the area, and we can't have the onlookers, in their way.
No, and especially right now when we have a pandemic, so that is just another layer of please just let's not do this, and then put people and their lives at risk. As far as those evacuation centers are concerned, they're just dotted around. Are they at the community center? Are they at the library? Where are they?
It's actually, so we've got 3 city facilities. It's Ulatis Community Center. We have the McBride Senior Center, and then we have a ice rink that has a large area for people to use. So it's the skate center that's on Davis Street. And then, like I said, the school has opened up Wilsey Wood High School, as well as Payton Elementary School, and then there are 2 other schools that actually slip my mind right now.
Okay, and then...
So a total of 7.
And again, the air quality is horrific. We have a live picture right now from Pleasant Valley Road, right there by Vacaville Road, and it's awful out there.
Yes.
Yes.
And so for those residents that have not been asked, so those residents that have been asked, have not been asked to evacuate, limit your outdoor time to just what is necessary. Stay indoors, close your windows. And doors, and keep them closed. Use your air conditioner, and then if you have a damper that allows outside air in, make sure that that's closed so you don't get ash and the smell of smoke inside your house.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. We really appreciate all of that. We're waiting for the governor. He is expected to talk in a couple minutes about how he's trying to allocate some more resources to your city, as well as other areas that have been hit hard by these fires that primarily were caused by the storm that came in this past weekend. So thank you, Chief, and please be safe.
Right.
We do have a lot of evacuations, as the chief there in Vacaville was mentioning. LNU Lightning Complex fire in the North Bay, Napa County evacuation orders. You can see the long list right there of all of the evacuations that are happening there. And then switching over evacuations, we've got this long list of LNU Lightning Complex evacuation orders, and you can read all of that right there. We've put all of this up on cron4.com. Again, we're waiting for the governor to come out. He has got certainly a full plate today as he's talking about the resources that are going to be dispatched with all of these fires that are unfolding in the north section of the state. There is also a fire that's going on down in Monterey County as well. But again, these are some of the evacuation orders that are taking place in the LNU Lightning Complex fire. And then switching over to Sonoma County, there is the Marsh Creek Road from Round Valley to Morgan Territory Road, all of Morgan Territory and Marsh Creek Mobile Home Park. And then switching to the SCU Lightning Complex evacuation orders. Again, these are so widespread, and again, law enforcement are pleading with people that if you do get, that text alert, to please go and do not dally, do not wait, but just gather up that go bag, which again, this is a great time to make sure you've got, if you have any medicine, to make sure that that is put in, dog food or cat food or anything along those lines, to make sure that is ready to go. So that if you are out of your home for the next, couple of days, or unfortunately, sadly, you lose your home, that you've got that one thing, or you've got that collection of things that you have that are irreplaceable, correct? Including nobody wants to stay behind and have anyone die because they stayed behind. Here again is some of the other evacuation orders. This is SCU. The complex evacuation order. I do believe I can see in the corner of my eye that the governor is speaking. Is that? an accurate picture? Oh, that's someone else. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out all that's happening, and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see that far. It was someone up at a podium, but not the governor. At the CZU Lightning Complex evacuation order in San Mateo County, communities of Loma Mar, Dearborn Park, and Pescadero Creek County Park area, Buisness community area, Buisness State Park area, including the Knolls community, and then over there at the creek drainage. So we've got that as well. And then the governor is now speaking. Let's listen in.
Stating the obvious that the west coast of the United States continues to experience a massive heat wave. Some have described this high pressure system as a heat dome that has impacted not just the state of California, but the entire west coast of the United States. It has led to many red flag warnings, including a significant number of lightning strikes in the last 72 hours, some 10,849 lightning strikes alone just in the last number of days, including, and it bears repeating, the prospect of a world record 130-degree temperatures here in the state of California, 130-degree temperature here in the state of California, the highest recorded certainly in modern history, potentially in human history, in Death Valley. We have seen wildfire activity as a consequence of this heat wave, as a consequence of all of these lightning strikes. We currently have addressed some 6,754 fires since the beginning of this year. You contrast that, and you can see in the slide where we were this time last year. Rather than over 6,700 fires that we've had to battle this year, we are now battling, or rather by contrast, we battled just over 4,000 fires last year. So this fire season has been very active. And not surprisingly, that activity has taken shape in a number of counties up and down the state of California. We've declared a statewide emergency yesterday, which fundamentally helps us avail ourselves of resources to combat these fires, both within the state and in terms of our mutual aid system across the western United States. And I'll talk more about that in a moment, and obviously draw down federal support as well. Here's where we are. Currently, we are battling some 367 known fires that are burning statewide. And I say known fires because when you see this amount of lightning strikes, and by the way, it was June of 2008 where we had roughly half the number of lightning strikes. June 2008 is a memorable date here in the state of California, particularly here at the State Operations Center, and the work CAL FIRE had to do to address those lightning strikes. Roughly half, 5,146 lightning strikes marked on that date, compared to over 10,000 over the last few days here in the state. As those lightning strikes spark, as you have a lot of smoke, difficult time determining total number of fires until certain things clear and we have the opportunity to go to more remote parts of the state. So I say 367 known fires based on the lightning activity, but the prospect of that number going up is very real. But the number that is most impactful, at least at the moment, are the 23 major fires in what we describe as complexes of fires. And that's an area that has multiple fires, not concentrated together, but concentrated and spaced apart, but within a geographic geographic area that is proximate. And so 23 major fires that we are currently addressing aggressively through all our efforts, both the local, regional, and state and federal level. Let's talk about some that we have highlighted over the course of the last number of days. The Apple Fire in around Riverside County. You've seen the Lake and Ranch fires in around LA County. You can see the containment of some of those fires, good progress, so much so in the Apple Fire that we've been able to pull resources from Southern California, from the Apple Fire into Northern California, where we've experienced the majority of these lightning strikes and new fires. They are major fires, but we're seeing some real containment. We're seeing real progress. Here are the number of fires where we're not yet seeing containment. Brand new fires. You see these lightning complex fires, the CZU, which is in around San Mateo, Santa Cruz area. That's a complex of fires. Fires last year was substantially lower than the activity we're experiencing this year. And what has occurred over the last 72 hours has certainly stretched the resources of this state. That said, we are in a better state of preparedness. I've had multiple press conferences like this over the course of the last few months, talking about some of our efforts on vegetation management, forest management. A few days ago, we announced a new partnership with the U.S. Forest Service to match California's commitment to address some of our vegetation and forest management by matching the total number of acreage that we are currently addressing each and every year. New partnerships forming with the U.S. Forest Service. In addition to the partnership we formed with the California legislature this year that provided an additional, despite this historic challenge with budget shortfalls, we were able to increase our budget for CAL FIRE by $85.6 million to get and bring on permanent full-time firefighting force. In addition to that, recognizing that we started to see some activity after the budget was signed that was potentially, was leading to some indication we might be where we are here today. We supplemented with an additional $72.4 million the availability of seasonal firefighters. At the time, we announced 858 seasonal firefighters we wanted to bring in to the total number of available CAL FIRE personnel. 830 of those 858 have already been brought on. This just over the course of the last few weeks. That supplemental commitment was timely, and we certainly are now a beneficiary of some of those new firefighting resources. By the way, in addition to the CAL FIRE personnel we brought on, we also tried to supplement some of our hand crews and some of the work at the California Conservation Corps, and those Corps members were part of that $72.4 million. So they have come on board, and they're out there on the front lines helping support our National Guards men and women, supporting our local frontline personnel, as well as some of our federal personnel. We have requested what we refer to as an EMAC, and this is our emergency assistance program with states all across the western United States. We've now requested 375 EMAC, meaning engines, to come from other states. I had the pleasure, and I want to thank publicly Governor Ducey of Arizona for his support, and they've sent equipment here to the state of California. Governor Sisolak in Nevada has sent equipment here into the state of California. A pending request that has been green-lighted by Governor Abbott. I want to thank him as well publicly. In Texas, they will be sending some crews and some support. The stretch these requests is not lost on anyone who's following this space. When you have a West Coast heat wave, we have fire activity all across the western United States, putting pressure on those assets within the states, and that includes up in the north or the Pacific North coast and areas of Oregon and Washington State as well. So complicating this picture, challenging time, but one where, again, we're very familiar, one we're more than capable of stepping up and doing everything we can to meet the moment. World-class firefighting force, world-class equipment that we have made substantial investment over the course of the last 4 or 5 years to upgrade. I've spent many occasions with you out there highlighting some of the new firefighting suppression technology that we have, the new infrared camera systems, our capacity satellite technology, our aerial reconnaissance efforts that have been supplemented and supported with National Guard, among others. The partnerships, again, we have been forming locally and federally, as well as some of these procurements that have been highlighted as it relates to no longer Vietnam War era suppression with old Huey helicopters, but now finally bringing on some of these new Black Hawk helicopters will allow faster time to suppression and allow more personnel as well as more firefighting suppression capacity. And ultimately, when the training is fully advanced, will allow us some nighttime suppression as well. So putting everything we have on these fires, they're stretched all across the state of California, and we're now getting the support of some of our partners in the Western United States. And for that, again, we are very grateful. This extraordinary weather event has also put pressure on our energy supply. That's been self-evident with our flex alerts that we put out since Friday night. We experienced some de-energization on Friday and Saturday, but none on Sunday, none on Monday, and none on Tuesday. That is good news. We took action, aggressive action, Sunday, Monday, as it relates to emergency orders and efforts with executive orders to put into place, into practice, a number of aggressive strategies to shift our energy consumption here in the state of California, as well as temporarily utilize backup sources of power, peaker plants, and the like. We've worked with our partners, LADWP. We've worked with the state water partners to get more hydroelectricity into our portfolio. San Francisco, Hetchy, now providing more hydro resources today than they even were yesterday. I want to thank our providers, not only our investor-owned utilities, but the providers out there that have done everything in their power to flex that power, particularly during the critical hours of 2 to 9 o'clock. I've said 3 to 10 in the last few days, and that's been accurate. Today, we are advancing to flex your power from 2 p.m. this afternoon to 9 p.m. Today, we believe, will be another challenging day, but we're up to the task. You're up to the task. You've proven that on Sunday night. You proved that on Monday. You proved that on Tuesday, last night. But we are looking at upwards of 47,000 plus megawatts of power full load today. Chevron and by Marathon that really aided to our efforts. The Navy, I want to thank them for all their good work with their ships that are in port that generate a lot of use of electricity, or rather consume a lot of electricity, that really met this moment and helped support the efforts Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So a lot of partners, a lot of participation, a lot of good work that's been done by users and by the utilities, by each and every one of you that got us through these last few days in ways that were rather remarkable, considering what many had anticipated. And so we want to thank all of you, those major consumers, for the reduction in usage. And again, I want to remind everybody that we have an investigation underway. We have a spirit of collaboration with the California Energy Commission, the PUC, and the ISO, the California Independent System Operator. They today will be providing a response to my request of those three agencies in terms of their shared responsibility to forecast the need for megawatt usage, to look at exactly how and what's necessary to procure and produce that, as well as some of the application of the same to the Public Utilities Commission. And so we're going to get some more clarification in that space, but a deeper investigation as it relates to the implications for the future, so this will never happen again. And we are working aggressively to see to it that's the case. I'll remind people, I mentioned this yesterday, some public comments, that in a typical summer day, we are using about 38,000 megawatts. Again, today with our Flex-A-Power, we're looking at upwards of 47,000 to be exact. We're projecting about 47,284 megawatts of energy being utilized here today. So over 47,000, typically would see about 38,000 megawatts on any summer day. And so we clearly have a lot of work to do. I want to remind everybody of the importance of cooling your home, offices overnight, doing what you can to set your air conditioning to 78 degrees or higher, again, particularly between the hours of 2 and 9 as it relates to what we project is the most important time period today. And again, try to do your best to avoid using your dishwasher, your dryer, your washing machine, major appliances during the hours of 9 and 10 to the extent possible. And we recognize not everyone can accommodate that, but to the extent you can, it would certainly accommodate our efforts to get through what we think is the last challenging night as it relates to this energy use. We also want you, as always, to do what you can to turn off all the unnecessary lights that you possibly can. And I want to just thank you for everything you've done the last few nights to do just that. I want to now turn to what's happening with the total number of positive cases here in the state of California. Have challenges not only with energy, some challenges as it relates to conditions with wildfires, but we continue to be challenged by this pandemic. Here are updated case numbers, some 6,164 numbers of people that we tested positive in our last reporting period, the 7-day average of 7,539. You can see the 14-day positivity rates at 6.6%. We've been testing on average now just shy of 120,000 individuals on a daily basis. It's important to note the extent it's a milestone. We've now tested over 10 million people here in the state of California. 10.1 million people have been tested in this state. So positivity rate over a 14-day period at 6.6%. To the extent we get asked often, and I comment often, the 7-day positivity is at 6.3%. So 6.3%, 7-day positivity, 6.6%, 14-day positivity. We've seen a decrease in the total number of hospitalizations over that same 14-day period, roughly 17% decrease in hospitalizations. I should note hospitalizations went down 0.1% yesterday, 0.1%. They went up modestly the day before. You can see from this graph that we're seeing a little bit of stabilization in terms of the decline, a plateauing of sorts in terms of the decline in hospitalizations. And so while the last few weeks we've seen some very positive direction, last few days, again, few days does not in and of itself make a trend, certainly shouldn't generate headlines, but is an important and consideration as it relates to our efforts to reduce the stress in our healthcare delivery system. By the way, that stress represents 7% of total number of hospitalized patients in the system are represented as COVID-19 positive patients. Hospitalizations have been going down. ICUs have also been going down. ICU admissions down 13% in the last 14 days. Hospitalizations dropped 0.1% yesterday, full 1% drop in ICUs yesterday, but not dissimilar to hospitalizations. We have seen, again, last few days bouncing a little bit up, a little bit down in the ICUs. Hospitals, again, same. ICU admissions represent now 19% of total, meaning COVID-19 positive patients represent 19% of our ICU admissions in the state. You recall 23% a week or two ago, 22, now 19%. We have 40 counties today on the monitoring list. Again, this is a dynamic list. People come off, people come on. We had 42 on Monday. The 2 counties that have dropped off since Monday these are very encouraging signs, is San Diego County and Placer County. It is expected, for the purposes of transparency, we expect, if all things being equal, that it's likely as early as tomorrow, though we'll see exactly as the numbers come in that San Francisco will be added to that list. That is not the case today, but it looks as if they're in a position 3+ days to get off of that monitoring list. We would then have 39 of our 58 counties on that list. So we want to see this list go down to 0. If we can continue to see that trend line on hospitalizations and ICUs, see that positivity rate, that 7-day of 6.3% continue to drop, get below 5%, and some stabilization over an extended period of time, 14, as long as 21 days, then we are in the position that all of us look forward to being in terms of the modification of a lot of our, well, stay-at-home and business rules and operational requirements that substantially, I think, address people's anxiety about this being a permanent state. This is not a permanent state. We will see a decrease in the transmission. We are seeing a decrease in the transmission of COVID-19, and we are doing everything to prepare for what many believe is a second wave later this fall, and mark my words that we will work our way through that, navigate through that to high-quality therapeutics and immunization, and move forward once again more resilient than ever, more robust and more capable as a society and economy moving forward into the new year. With that, as always, we remind you, best way to forward and advance that cause, a collective cause that unites all of us, regardless of where you stand on the issue of wearing a mask or where you stand in physical distance to one another, and whether or not you practice the kind of hygiene that we encourage. I think all of us universally look forward to getting to that place, and the fastest way of doing so is to do what you can to responsibly wear a mask, to responsibly physically distance, socially distance from others, continue to practice that good hygiene, and of course try to minimize as much as you can the kind of mixing that we often see, and obviously is tempting as it relates to the heat and the activities that so many of us look forward to on a daily basis, but many on weekend basis, as we battle the elements here in this state. And so, look, we are challenged right now by a number of new fires all over the state of California. We've put out every resource we have. We have an incredible mutual aid program here in the state. We have outstanding leadership in key positions in this state. Mark Gilladucci running our office here of emergency services. This is the State Operations Center. It is fully staffed with people providing mutual aid of every conceivable sort here, all under one roof, monitoring the situation, this dynamic situation in real time, led by Tom Porter, Chief Porter at CAL FIRE, and they are doing everything in their power to meet the needs of not only keeping power on in this state, but powering through this very dynamic moment as it relates to wildfires, and again, continuing to keep our eyes squarely focused on mitigating the spread of COVID-19. So that's the update for today. As always, happy to take any questions.
Adam Beam, Associated Press.
Governor, a private high school in Sacramento resumed in-person instruction after the school reclassified its teachers as daycare workers. I was wondering if your administration has seen other schools across the state do this, and are you worried it could become a loophole for schools to defy your public health order?
Yeah, I haven't seen that in terms of its scale and spreads. The answer is no, I have not seen that. Each one of these instances is unique and distinctive. I think a few days ago, Monday, there was a question about a particular school in Fresno, California. So in every community, there's over 1,000 school districts in this state. Are going to see some different approaches, different strategies. You're going to see people testing the bound some of these state orders, as is the case in most of these instances. I want to thank the local health officers, the city and county leaders for their fortitude, for their diligence, for their enforcement in this space, and encourage them to continue to do that, again, for no other reason than we want to keep our kids safe and we want to keep our paraprofessionals safe, our teachers safe. We have a protocol, we have a process where people are not on that monitoring list over a 14-day period where they can provide in-person learning. We look forward to getting all of our kids back into that environment. And the quickest and fastest way to do that is to abide by local health officer directives, abide by the science, abide by the overwhelming evidence, not just here in the United States, but around the rest of the world, to do it in a safe and responsible way, and always consider the background rates of infections and the community spread of this virus and how impactful that is to the activities within any of these school sites. And that's why we want to remain vigilant. That's why we put so much time and energy into putting out our guidelines. And that's why we encourage those that are doing the right thing to continue to practice and to be the example that all of us want to see in this state.
Sophia Balog, Sacramento Bee.
Hi, Governor. You had said that you were willing to take the $300 in unemployment benefits that the president has offered. Can you give us an update on where that stands? When can Californians expect to get checks, and what's sort of the status of California actually accepting that money?
So we've been in active engagement with the federal administration. We have been working to work through their protocols and procedures. We're still waiting for a little bit more clarity and guidance, but we're doing everything in terms of our application process to meet their needs and hope and expectations to be among the first cohort of states to draw down that federal money. And so we've been leaning into that. I'm not walking away. There are some states, one notable state said we're not interested. We, from day one, asserted an interest, and we have processed that interest in formal conversations and formal applications with our federal partners, and we're going back and forth on those details. And as soon as we have clarity from the feds, we'll make public exactly when those dollars will be forthcoming.
Rachel Becker, Cal Matters.
So part and parcel of a larger strategy, larger plans, but these cooling centers are foundational in that effort and are a specific example of the work that is being done in this state.
Phil Willen, LA Times.
Hi, Governor. In your emergency declaration for the fires, you noted that our mutual aid system was under strain. That combined with a reduction in prison fire crews has some people saying that we were short of firefighters for these outbreaks. Is that true? And should we have been better prepared?
Well, the exact opposite. You recall I had a press conference a few months ago highlighting this point, and rather than lamenting about it, we prepared for it. It's exactly specific and specifically exactly why we did a supplemental of $72.4 million to hire an additional 858 seasonal firefighters, 830 now that have already been hired over just the course of the last few weeks. So specifically because of that concern, we went out, we made public that new proposal, that new plan. We were able to draw down those dollars. We were able to post those job openings. We were able to train and hire those people. They're out on the front lines.
Daniels, to Desert Sun.
Good afternoon, Governor. The California Department of Public Health has received a letter from Riverside County seeking to open up more businesses